It says recording. We're live.
Hey, Andrew.
Welcome
to the Get Louder podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, man.
I just found out the name of the podcast 5 seconds ago.
We just came up with it.
It's a great name.
Yeah,
It's a
thanks,
great
man.
name. Yeah.
Thank you.
So, before we get started, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? You know, who you are, your business, maybe how you got started in it.
I'm Andrew Chivinski. I'm a 44-year-old lawyer who always wanted to be a lawyer, and I went to college and grew up in Pennsylvania. I went to college in Philly. I was a political science major. Did some internships for the DA's office, some local state representatives and mayoral candidates. I thought I was going to go to law school, become a district attorney, and then run for office and be a politician. So that was my plan. Got into law school, got an offer to come out here to San Diego, came out, started law school, did an internship at the DA's office out here. And
Nice.
that's because I was in law school, they let me do some real DA stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized, oh shit, DAs are cops.
It's literally a
Basically cops.
Wow.
I'm not a cop. And so it was very clear to me that I'm not a cop, and it was very clear to everybody else that I was not a cop. I just did not feel like I fit in. So ended up kind of doing some internships and part-time jobs for civil attorneys. And there was a guy who was an older plaintiff's medical malpractice attorney, and it was just him and his wife at the time, and they officed in an old Victorian townhouse up in Bankers Hill. And then right across the street from him was a plaintiff's employment attorney who also officed in an old Victorian townhouse on his own practice. And so I kind of was exposed to some people who were solo practitioners.
You're like, I need a Victorian townhouse.
It all comes, yeah, the Victorian. In my
Yeah.
mind, I'm like, okay, so that's the path to success.
Right.
You know, you open your own practice, you do well, you get a Victorian.
Right.
And so I came out. I came out of law school, knowing a lot about civil litigation and injury litigation. I got a job, luckily, at a medical malpractice defense firm. So working on the defense side, defending hospitals, defending doctors. And it was kind of a law firm that was notorious and legendary in town as being kind of an old boys club. They like to, play hard and work hard, and they don't care how late you stayed out drinking and carrying on, as long as you were the first one in the office and could, try cases. And I kind of fit the bill for that. Nothing else. I couldn't do much else, but I could do that. And so I rose the ranks up through there pretty quick and learned a lot. And then kind of got a little disenchanted with the insurance industry and the claims industry and just the idea of if I'm going to be a partner at a big law firm doing defense work, I'm going to have to find an insurance company that's going to send me enough cases to make me worthwhile to have as a partner at the firm. And once you get that insurance company client and they're sending you the cases, you're beholden to them, and your whole life is spent worrying about whether some insurance stooges are going to keep sending you cases or not. And I just looked at all the guys that were older. This was their last stop kind of thing. That was it. And I just was like, ugh, I don't want to end up like that, So
Right.
I ended up switching sides, starting my own practice solo. I had no money saved up. I chose to go into the most expensive, probably, practice field you could be in as a plaintiff attorney, because it costs so much to try malpractice cases.
Like, as far as the costs that you up front in order to even take the case on.
Yeah.
Wow.
You've got, for medical malpractice, you have to hire experts
Yeah.
to prove your case.
Yeah.
In addition to all the regular costs like depositions and whatnot. So, a lot of times before you take on a case, you want to get an expert to look at it and tell you it is a case. and they're charging $5,000 retainers, $2,000 an hour. Some of them, it's crazy.
Wow.
So I had none of that, and so I started just doing contract work. Is what I ended up doing. I did contract work for probably a year and a half before I settled a case on my own that was big enough that I had money to live on, that I could turn away the hourly contract work I was doing for other attorneys. And it just kind of progressed slowly from there. But I was lucky because lucky is not the right word. The key to my survival and the small amount of success that I had early was because I had worked at a big firm that was known for doing medical malpractice, and because so few people want to do medical malpractice,
You were one of the few.
everybody was sending me their medical malpractice cases.
Right.
And so almost from day one, even when I was doing the contract work, the phone was never stopped ringing.
Wow.
And it was, a lot of the cases that I was being referred, just like today, are not cases. But I had enough phone calls coming in that, the percentages, were the ones that I was able to get resolved ultimately, and business-wise survive, do good jobs for the clients, pay referral fees to the attorneys that were referring me the cases. That was it. That was my marketing.
Wow.
That was my marketing plan. Was just like people just send me shit, and just because of something I did before, and that was it. I never did any marketing for it, and I definitely didn't know anything about running a business.
Yeah.
It was just
You
me.
just dove in. You just dove in.
I just dove
Did
in.
you have to end up developing a process for figuring out whether cases weren't cases or not that saved you money, or did it always have a cost associated with it?
So, I mean, I knew enough about the cases, and having done it on the defense, I knew how hard it was. What kind of cases were likely to have, were likely to win at trial, and because I knew that they could potentially win at trial, I knew that other defense lawyers would know that, and so I knew what kind of cases would either settle, or if they wouldn't settle them, that you could try the case and feel confident that if you did a good job,
Right.
you get a recovery. But that all goes out the window the minute somebody who you want to develop a referral relationship with starts sending you a bunch of cases and they're all shitty.
Right.
But you want to develop a referral relationship, and you don't
Right.
want to just have this guy being like, oh, he's not taking any of the cases I'm sending him.
Right.
And I can't call him every time and tell him why I'm not taking the case and explain it to him. So, you being new to it, I had, especially having no money when I started, when things started to come in, I operated very much not very much, but I definitely had a little bit of a fear factor that motivated me. And I was motivated by the fear of not having that stream of clients coming
Right.
in. So if I met somebody that I thought would be a good referral source, and he was a good guy, and somebody I wanted to have in my network as a friend and a colleague and all that, and he sent me shitty cases, I'd take a couple of them.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's a bad move, because what happens is ultimately those cases aren't going anywhere.
Yeah.
You know it. You stop working on the cases.
Right.
Shit falls into through the cracks. Now they're problem cases. So you got cases that you didn't even want in the first place that are problem cases, and so
That's crazy.
you learn a lot of hard lessons that way, and I still make that mistake. I still make that mistake. I shouldn't, but I still do. And so I just kind of bumbled my way by keeping overhead really, 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 really low, and not really having employees and just doing everything myself. I was
Yeah.
licking stamps. There was a FedEx station up the street from my house that I would go to mail out my stuff. We would send a lot of certified mail out. When you do certified mail, you got to fill out your address. And we got to send 10 envelopes out. You could spend an hour and a half at the FedEx store, filling out writing your whole address out. So I got a stamp. I got a stamp. And I was there so often stamping the shit that they just let me keep my stamp there right behind the counter.
Yeah. You just grab.
Yeah, and so I would just go in, they'd hand me my stamp, and I'd give it back to them, because I was always forgetting it. I always show up and be like, I forgot my stamp. So they let me just keep it there. It was funny. I was back there a couple weeks ago, and I haven't been there in years, really. And it's still back there behind the...
That's cool.
Yeah, the thing.
Really?
So
You should get that stamp, put it in like a frame, you know?
I know. I should.
That's cool.
Is there anything like looking back on your journey that if you could go back and change some things that you would?
Yes.
Do
Yes.
tell.
I can't disclose the things that I would go back and change because nobody knows about them yet, and there's the statute of limitations
So
hasn't
when you-
run out on some of those charges.
Yeah. Okay.
No,
When you run for president, then they're going to come up. That's what you're saying.
well, the political aspirations are gone.
They're gone? Oh,
They're
man.
What happened with that? By the way, I forgot to ask you.
Well-
You wanted to be a politician?
Yeah.
Then what happened?
Once I realized that there was no way I was going to be a district attorney, and going to school, Philly is a political town. It's East Coast cities, people on the East Coast. Politics is a bigger deal.
The birth of politics.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like
Especially Philly.
Yeah, I mean, Philly's got like a lively, colorful political culture and scene, and everybody knows about stuff, and ideology is important. And I was a political science major, so at that moment in my life, I loved that shit.
Yeah.
I was really into like political philosophy and philosophy in general, and politics, and I wanted to be like a Kennedy kind of thing, and San Diego's just different.
Definitely.
I came out here, and like for the first 6 months when I came out here, I wanted to bounce.
Really?
I was like,
It's too slow.
it was too slow. And like where I went, like when you went out at night, you put on like a nice polo shirt, crisp, some nice dress shoes to go with your jeans. You look nice.
Not here.
You got a watch. You look good. And I was going out like that. I'm in law school, single guy. And I'm going out and I'm dressed nice and doing the whole thing. And I'm looking around, and the only guys getting any attention from the ladies were like the guys who would show up to nice clubs and bars wearing tank tops with a spider tattooed on their neck, and their hats on backwards, and they got a lip ring. And I'm
You
like, these
hated
guys are
that shit. You're
dopes.
like,
I was just like, so that's like that projected out where like I just felt like everything was just so like not how I was brought up and not what I was like, and I was like I'm probably gonna go back to East Coast and transfer. And then all of a sudden one day it just started growing on me.
Yeah.
And
now look at you.
What was the moment? What was the moment you realized that
Sandals.
San Diego was like grew on you? Because you haven't left since.
no, I haven't. I won't. If I don't, you'd have to kick me out. I guess it was one summer we all splurged and spent all of our student loan money on a house on Lamont Street down in PB, like right on the cliffs. And if that doesn't convert you,
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Literally.
what will? So,
Well, it's funny because I went to school. I'm from San Diego, but I went to school in New York. I went to Fordham University, and I visited Philly. I got friends in Philly and the DC area and all that stuff. And I had the same experience in terms of how people were and how they dressed and all that. It was definitely a big culture shock, but I loved it. Like I loved the difference of the people and the style and all that stuff. But then when everyone found out I was from San Diego and I was like the cool person from Cali, when they came out and visited me, I think I had like probably 4 people move here.
yeah.
Like we were here. It was December. It was after New Year's. It was like January something. It was early January, right after New Year's, and it was 70 degrees, and we went to the beach, and they could not believe that shit.
Yeah.
They were mind blown.
Yeah. I mean, if you move out here from the East Coast and
Yeah.
you've got friends back east, like you better have 2 couches.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody's coming. Everybody's coming.
So you moved to San Diego. You were San Diego was so different. You dressed up all nice. Freaking spider with the spider tattoo with the lip ring. He was taking all the females.
Yep.
And so what was the moment like? So then let's continue the journey to like why you didn't become a politician.
Yeah. So I just there was there was zero like there was no like influence around like it just I don't know. I feel like you can go through your life in San Diego not really knowing anything about local politics.
The motivators weren't there.
Yeah, there was no motivation there. Law school was consuming. I was meeting new people, learning a whole new, culture in Southern California, and politics just wasn't really part of it. And so, like, it was. I don't even know the moment that I didn't have an interest in anymore. Just, you know, like
Faded.
it would come up and I'd be like, yeah, I used to be in, wouldn't do that. I still like to read it and I have like, you know, and think about it and talk about it and all that stuff, but I would never, ever run for office.
Yeah.
You know, not just because of the skeletons in the closet.
But what politician doesn't have skeletons in their closet, right?
I know, it's almost becoming a prerequisite. Maybe I'd
Right.
make a good candidate,
You might.
you know? Who knows? Probably
That'll be part of your speech. And just so you guys know, I have skeletons.
Yeah.
All right, so
just go down the list right off the bat.
Yeah,
It's like, you guys are going to hear some stuff about me throughout this campaign, starting with
yeah, let's get it out of the way
number
now.
one.
The most transparent candidate out there.
Ever.
So how long have you been running your business for now?
I think I'm in either my 9th or 10th year.
Nice.
10 years. Wow.
Well,
Wow.
That's
So, so how do you said you wanted a Victorian style house and you work in one.
I used to, and so yeah, there's the update. So had my practice for a long time. The law firm was run out of the kitchen table. In fact, there's the seats at our kitchen table had upholstery on them, and there was one place that I sat in. I'd wake up, I'd sit down, I'd put the laptop down, I'd just all day.
Dented.
Yep, there's a dent. There's a little divot in it that you could see. And I used to joke when people come over, I'd be like, "That's where Chivinski Law Firm was founded."
Yeah. Right there.
It really was.
That ass
Yeah.
right there.
It was great. It was great.
That's awesome.
That's probably when my business was running at its best.
In the kitchen.
In the kitchen, with no employees,
Right.
and just me having a really solid grind mentality, where it was just like laser focus on that and just grind, and good things happened, and the profits were always profits, and it was great.
And then how did that
Well, I
change?
mean, it wasn't. It wasn't. It was hard. It was hard work and everything. But like business wise, if you were to look at my overall business from a number standpoint, that's when it was at its best for sure.
So what happened?
Yeah.
Would you say?
I got too busy, and I took too long bringing on the right staff to assist in the places that I needed it. And when I did bring on staff to assist, I realized that I don't have any skills as a supervisor or an employer. That I'm incredibly impatient, and I'm grumpy, and I'm too easily annoyed. And when I feel like that, I just kind of ignore things and people. And so, you know, people would come to work for me, and they would get no feedback, they would get no direction, they would get, you know, no anything really. They're just kind of like, if I just tell them, you're okay, you are going to be the paralegal. Okay, well, here's the stuff. Be the paralegal.
Right.
And if they couldn't be the paralegal, I'd be like, what the hell? I thought you said you were a paralegal.
So did you ever hire like a number two, like an office manager or somebody to take
So,
that role on?
I'm actually for the first time ever trying to bring on a guy who's a good friend of mine, who worked at the same law firm I did, who his skill set I think isn't so much where mine is. It's in doing that sort of
Operations.
thing. Yeah, he's an operation guy. He's a lawyer, and he can do the lawyer thing, but he's got good. He has good interest and people skills, and he's just. I think he'd be perfect for that role. But he just switched over and is trying to. He's like where he is right now where I was 10 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're in that place, you kind of don't know what the world holds for you, and so he understandably is wanting to see what he can do on his own first before he goes and just signs up to work with or for somebody else right away, because that's what he was trying to get away from. So it's tough. These days it's tough in law to like find a good attorney who wants to come work for you.
Yes.
Or somebody who wants to work even with you necessarily on a regular basis, like as a partner.
So
because
sorry. go
you
ahead.
can do on your own, you can do a lot. So people get that.
Do you find that finding like a high quality talent is more of an attracting thing, or is it like you have to go out and search them, or is it, you know?
It's probably still mostly an attraction thing. And probably if I stop looking for it and kind of, and would get back to just doing my thing, I bet you I would attract more candidates. The problem with it is that unless you can look as in personal injury and any kind of plaintiff contingency based work, which is what we do, the only fear or the only problem is being able to afford doing it. And like, so people walking away from a job,
Right.
and say, okay, I'm going to leave this salary, which isn't enough, and I don't like the job, but you're asking me to leave that and make nothing
And take on debt and risk.
Yeah, and then and with the hopes that I'll get enough cases and that I'll be able to litigate them with no money and somehow start getting settlements and have money. Nobody believes that they can do it. You almost have to be pushed off the ledge. But once they do, they realize, most of them realize two things: that the way to do it is to be on your own, or to be a partner where you're keeping most of the benefits from your cases.
Right.
Because a salary is just kind of like, why make $100,000 a year when you can make $500,000 a year?
Right.
And you can do that. Not easily, but once you start getting cases in, you get a good case, you can be the dumbest lawyer on the planet. If you file a lawsuit where some, a 22-year-old gets run over by somebody who ran a stop sign and they've got $1 million insurance policy, guess what?
You getting paid?
You're gonna get that $1 million. Yeah. So, it's just kind of getting those cases. And once people realize that they can do that, and the good ones do, it's kind of hard to get them to come be a partner or work for you, and give them a good reason why that's ultimately going to be in their best interest.
So it's probably somebody who hasn't made that discovery yet, or hasn't taken the leap, like you're
Right,
saying. Yeah.
right. Hasn't taken the leap, hasn't made the discovery yet, or somebody who, and there's people like this, who just don't have any interest in being like, an entrepreneur or hustling business or anything. They want the job. They want the
Security.
They want the security. They want the monotony. They like the routine. They're not interested in the stress. And, I know this show's about entrepreneurs and everything, and I'm proud of the fact that I was able to run my business and everything. I don't know if I'd call myself an entrepreneur, but I would say that sometimes it sounds nice to kind of just sit back and be like,
Right.
I wish that I didn't have to worry about any of this shit, and could just do all day and then be done with it and let it go.
Clock out at 5
Yeah.
and
But this is
totally
something
not
that
have to think about the business anymore.
Yeah.
I was gonna say it's something that we talk about a lot, and what I feel like what we believe what it comes down to is like the processes and procedures, like having those systems in place in your business where, and this is a lot of work to do, but once you do it, it's just like boom, it's in place where you're able to step back and everything's working for you, and then you're just like buying back your time, and then hiring the right people to then take over, like that person that you're thinking about hiring right now to take over that role. And if you have that process and system in place and it's working, then you can plug them in. It's a lot of letting go.
Yeah.
Right. That's probably the hardest part for entrepreneurs, is that you have to have this certain percentage of let go and trust that it's going to work. But without that, you're always going to be like, worrying about everything,
Yeah. Well, it's even worse is if you don't even have the systems in place.
Right.
And you're just like a cannonball bustling through the universe doing like this, and you're making it work, but there's no systems. And that's pretty much how it's been, because I didn't know anything about systems. I knew how I did things, but once there's too many cases, and you had to have someone to keep track of them all. Now you got employees, you got to have someone to supervise them, check in with them,
a lot of systems.
feedback, all that stuff started to happen really fast. And, I didn't have any systems in place.
Have you ever utilized any marketing in your business before?
So yes. But for a long time, the marketing was just like, I didn't do any advertising. I had a website that was just kind of a GoDaddy website, nothing special about it. And that was it. I mean, it was just because of the nature of what I did, I didn't have to market. I got plenty of calls from other lawyers wanting to refer me cases, such that there was never a need for me to advertise for it. There was never a need for me to spend money on marketing, and so I just didn't. And I guess I started doing some marketing, or just without even trying, passively, once you've got a website for a while, once you've been a lawyer for a while, and you're a part of some good results that get published and you get awards for and stuff like that, you end up on websites, and next thing you know, people start reaching out to you.
Right. Yeah.
And then you got Martindale Hubble wants to make you an AV-rated attorney, and then you're on their website, and then
these guys want to bring on a podcast.
yeah, or you're gonna be super lawyers, or these guys, yeah, well that. but all these, I got all these things, and so now now my profile is listed on different websites that have whatever SEO they have, and so I started to get more stuff coming in that way, and around the same time, I just kind of got to a place where. So in the middle of all this, I got married and then had 3 kids.
Oh, wow.
And
that adds a lot.
I'm trying, and I'm trying to balance being a present dad and husband with being a guy who's taking care of a law firm that has enough cases for 3 lawyers and there's only 1. And the marketing part of it involved me paying attention to what other lawyers were doing, what they were saying, and who's who, and what's what, and making sure that I had a good, I had good visibility to certain people or whatever, just because I wanted to make sure I could continue to get the referrals, because now I got 3 kids.
Yeah.
So I didn't like the fact that I was spending a lot of time thinking about and worrying about and talking to and texting with other lawyers and not my kids, and getting in trouble with the wife for it, all because, all just to be, more present with, people who's I couldn't keep up with, and that I just didn't feel it started to wear on me, and I didn't like that, and that's kind of how I was bringing stuff in, and.
Those moments seemed less important to you because other things were becoming more important. So
Yeah.
you're dealing with this, it's almost like pettiness of the job.
Yeah. There's for sure there was that. Yeah. And I don't know, man. It's just when your kids, dad, look at me. Hold on, I'm on WhatsApp. I'm on WhatsApp right now. It's just and you look up, you're like, yes, what? And your wife's scowling at you, and the kids and the kids just, and then then later on that night you're on your WhatsApp again, and some advertisement pops up talking about how, did you know that kids whose parents don't pay attention to them and instead paying attention to social media are less likely to be. You're like, fuck.
Isn't that a trip where you're watching that and you're actually in the act of it though at the same time?
Right. I love when you're on Instagram and it's like you should spend less time on Instagram.
I know, it's like fucking. Do you want me to grab that cup for you?
No, I'm good.
I didn't know if you wanted to put it down or not.
I'm gonna precariously hold it right here. It's making Jeremiah nervous.
We need to get small. We need to get more
the hand
tables.
gestures. Am I gonna spill it?
I'm like, take a sip. No.
Oh, that's actually the first sip I had. It's good coffee. Thank you.
It is good coffee.
It's strong coffee.
It is strong.
Bro, that coffee,
it gets you buzzing.
Bro, that coffee is as strong as cold brew, I think.
As strong as what?
Cold brew. As
Oh,
strong
cold
as
brew,
cold
yeah.
brew, yeah.
What is it? What kind of coffee is it?
Fucking
Expensive coffee.
Expensive coffee.
I like you. I'm a coffee guy.
Yeah, it is good.
So.
I like coffee. I just can't, unfortunately, have it after 11
Really?
AM. Yeah.
a.m.
I
or else I won't be able to sleep at night.
Really?
Yeah.
I could drink it at 6 o'clock and take a nap at 7.
Yeah, you guys, I envy you guys. I just metabolize the thing slow. I need to get some decaf. So
you're getting your leads still through referrals now?
I do, but not as much because a couple of things happened. More attorneys started their own practices that in my field that are great friends of mine, good lawyers. Some people I encouraged to do it, from switching from the defense. Others who were plaintiff lawyers working at plaintiff firms who realized they could do it on their own, and they're doing it. Some like people like Amy Martell and Brian Findley and my boy John Adesabian, who left the same office I was at. Todd Rattay is the guy I was talking about, who's the office manager in training. I hope he doesn't see this. I haven't told him that that's my plan for him yet. So that they kind of dipped into the share, but it was fine with me because I was drowning in freaking pie anyway.
Right.
And so I started a little bit doing more marketing using lead companies of sorts. They're not
Lead generators.
Lead generators. But again, I didn't really have great, you got leads coming in now from all different places. Well, I didn't have any real system to track them, catch them, follow up. And so I'm still in the same boat where I've got people calling, leaving messages every day, trying to get me to call them back about a case. And it's like, at this point, I could spend the next month returning phone calls.
So would you say, and I'm just assuming, but would you say that one of your goals is to attract new talent into your firm and have other lawyers and grow in that way, or not necessarily?
My goal right now is to get my overflow is to maximize the value. I have some really important good cases with some really significantly injured and harmed clients who really need my attention on their cases, and for me to do what I do and get them the maximum value out of their case. I want to focus on that and getting rid of kind of like the stuff that's just a chaos and a mess around me. And some of those aren't just bad cases that I took on that I shouldn't have. Some of them are cases that are they're okay cases, they're good cases, but there's not either liability is tough or there's really not significant damages, or maybe it's just somebody whose case I'm looking into, but I don't have time to look into it. So I've been looking into it for 2 months now. I just got to get rid of that stuff and thin it out, and then see how I feel on the other side of that. Because when you're spending most of your time putting out fires and dealing with problems,
that's not helping.
It's no wonder that I'm not, I haven't been enjoying the practice of law if I'm just doing the shitty stuff all the time.
Yeah.
And so I gotta, so I had earlier this year, I was kind of feeling like, I think I might hit the end of the road. I'm doing this for 20 years. There's not much in this that I would want to do or that I could do that I haven't already kind of done. In a way, there's a couple things maybe, but I just kind of was feeling like, I don't know, maybe I should look into something else, some other kind of thing, and that's still a possibility that there's some other interest that I have, but I also feel like there may be a little bit of that's me just being a chicken shit, and that I might have let things get a little out of control and made a little bit of a mess, and instead of cleaning it up and taking care of it, I'm thinking I'll just walk away from this and somebody else will clean it up. So
is there a reason why you haven't taken on a partner?
I had a couple chances. There's one in particular opportunity that was put to me that I turned down. There's a lawyer, one of the guys I just mentioned his name. He wanted to leave his practice and start his own firm, but he was worried about startup capital, and he came and he had lunch, and he inquired as to whether I'd be interested in he and I being partners. And at that time, I was just starting to hit the point where I was realizing just like, man, I got my practice is out of control right now. I got too much going on. I'm worried every day something's going to fall through the cracks. There's going to be a problem. And then he comes to me. He's a good guy, smart guy, leaving his firm. Once he starts his own practice, he's got a young family, and he wants to partner with me. And I just was like, I couldn't. I didn't want to bring him into that for two reasons. One, I didn't want anything bad, him to come in and have it not go well, and possibly be adverse to him. He's a good guy. Two, I didn't want him to know. My shit was like all chaotic either. And so I passed. And in retrospect, I probably should have just said, yeah, I am. But check it out. Here's the deal. I got, things are crazy for me right now. And then, seeing what would have happened. But beyond that, I think that I've had, every time that I've had a chance to talk to somebody about a partnership, it's been somebody who knows what I know, and that's that, or at least they haven't had an opportunity to see how far they can go on their own yet. And until you do that, unless you're the kind of person who wants to have a partner, needs to have somebody there, and there's not a lot of people that I know that are like that.
But don't firms grow large from partnerships?
It's a different. So, on the plaintiff side, you have to understand that like the way that we take on clients. I mean, if you do, like, let's say you do a lot of TV advertising, radio advertising, and you're getting a ton of phone calls, and a lot of those are going to be cases, and so you need to have people.
Yeah.
But you need to have a partnership with at least one other person, if not two or three, because you're going to need somebody to help you cover the costs. You're going to need to have somebody cover the supervision of employees. There's a lot that's going to need to be done if you're going to do volume.
Right.
And even though I have a lot of high caseload, I don't have what you would consider a volume. I don't have like 100 cases or 200, or sometimes some of these guys have like 500 cases.
Wow.
It's insane. I just have maybe between 30 and 50 at any given time, but that's a lot for one guy.
Seems like a lot.
But it's not so much that you need a partnership, and definitely not when a third of those are just cases that you never should have had in the first place.
Right.
And so you can make. There's just not much of an incentive to do the partnership thing on a plaintiff side unless you're doing a lot of volume, other than you're just the kind of person who likes to have a partner. And so there's a lot of value to that. There's people like that, but I haven't,
I get confused when with the word plaintiff and the other. So if I'm taking on cases with people, that's not the plaintiff side. That's the other side.
The plaintiff is the person who brings a complaint.
Right.
The defendant is the person that is being complained against. So they're
which is usually the insurance company, right?
Right. So like it's always either an individual or a company that you're suing.
Right.
But most of the people and individuals that you sue have insurance that covers the reason you're suing them.
Right.
So like they hit you with their car. Well, you have car insurance.
Right.
They slipped and fell at your house. Well, you've got homeowners insurance. You've got a business and they fell on your property, your business property. You've got commercial liability insurance. You're a doctor and you're operating on the wrong leg. Well, you've got malpractice insurance. So there's insurance that so when you sue that person, they turn over the lawsuit to their insurance company. The insurance company finds a law firm that they work with and sends them the case. They represent the individual or the company, but they're getting paid by the insurance company. So who's really the client?
Right.
And then there's just me on the other side, and I'm representing the person who's injured.
Right.
So that's the.
Gotcha.
What was the?
Don't feel bad about that, by the way.
Right. Yeah.
my when I got married, my ex-wife, we were separated now, but my wife at the time, she thought that lawyers wrote laws.
Well, I didn't think that.
We're like 2 or 3 years into it. And she's like, hey, she's kept on. She always used to say to me, she's like, can't you change this?
Change the law?
And finally, I'm like, you realize that I don't make laws, right? She's like, what do you mean you don't? Like, can't you like write a law? And I'm like, well, I mean, I can write a law, but like, I don't like, I'm not a legislator. We had to break it down, but she's like, oh, I thought that's what lawyers did. Like a lawyer, like you could write up laws and send them in and they'd get passed. I'm like,
don't compare my confusion to that one, though.
no, that's what I'm telling you. Don't feel bad. That's different.
That's funny.
We'll just leave it at that.
Okay.
What was the biggest case you ever had?
Ooh.
Oh man,
I think I saw one on your website, like 2.8 mil.
Biggest case in terms of the result, it depends on how you're asking. The biggest case I ever worked on as a plaintiff was a case that I worked on with my mentor and a legend in town, a guy named Ken Sigelman, who's a doctor and a lawyer.
Damn.
That's crazy.
Wow.
Yeah. I call him the supercomputer. He's a smart dude, great lawyer. It was a birth injury case. a little boy who had, hypoxic, ischemic, encephalopathic brain injury. I mean, no oxygen was delivered to his brain for a certain period of time while he was being delivered.
Wow.
And so he was born into this world with a brain injury that rendered him, essentially a spastic quadriplegic. And so the care that he needed for the rest of his life was obviously through the roof. And so, yeah, we did get it was called a $25 million verdict or judgment from a federal court judge that was appealed for 3 years, and they just finally denied the most recent appeal. So maybe we'll finally get paid on it.
Yeah, I hear that. I mean, so my follow-up question was gonna be, the bigger the settlement, it usually takes, the longer it takes to actually collect. Because there's somebody I talked to who had $100 million settlement, and that was 12 years ago.
Yeah.
Still haven't seen a dime.
Wow, what?
I'm like, you should have just took a quarter of that.
Isn't there like a?
Because they appeal it. They appeal it over and over and over again. They fight it and fight it and fight
They
it.
can, and it's kind of like, look, you'll hear about judgments and verdicts sometimes, and you'll even see lawyers. I had a buddy who, right out of law school, went back to a town that he grew up in the Midwest, where his dad is a lawyer, and the firm had this drunk driver. It was a drunk driver hit some girl and hurt her really bad, and she was messed up. No insurance, and they filed a lawsuit. There's no insurance. The guy was drunk. He's not working. He's in jail now. There's no reason to sue that person.
No money.
Why?
Yeah.
Why? Well, here's the reason why. Because you can sue them and get the jury to give a crazy, ridiculously big award against them, because who wouldn't? And so now all of a sudden you, right out of law school, have a verdict under your belt for some ridiculous number like $500 million, and you can post that
all day.
$500 million verdict.
Yeah.
Like that. I got my first trial ever. People are like, wow, you must be the best lawyer ever. Not a dime was recovered,
Right.
and a trained monkey could have got that same verdict. So that happens sometimes. The key is it recoverable? Like ours is recoverable.
Yeah.
Because it's the federal government, but they fought it, and I don't even know what to do right now. Like they got the order came back, appeal denied by the Supreme Court, California. No, I'm sorry, by the Ninth Circuit. They could still take it to the California Supremes, but they won't. And it's kind of like, all right, so what do I just call up the U.S. attorney now and be like,
Ask
hey,
for a
so when are you gonna send the check?
It's like, so my Venmo or Zelle.
Like, I don't know. So I'm just checking the mail every day.
Do you guys take Venmo?
So that's funny. Check it. So Andrew, do you have any advice or maybe some guidance for maybe a new lawyer fresh out of law school, or a new entrepreneur, someone wants to start a business? Maybe got some sage advice for anyone?
If you're just coming out of law school and you don't know what you want to do, throw yourself into something that's going to give you some real experience, and don't worry about how much you're getting paid as a salary, because the firms that give you the least experience tend to pay the most, and the firms that give you the most experience tend to pay the least. But the attorneys who get the experience in a field that they ultimately practice in as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, they end up being the better lawyers, and then have the opportunity to be good business, persons, because you're a good lawyer, you're getting cases, and you can get good results, and it's up to you what you do with that. My advice is that, I guess, and if you're ready to become an entrepreneur, do what I'm trying to do now, or what I'm trying to redo again, and that's fall in love with the process and take the time up front to set up systems. It was so funny you said that, because I'm just like, man, that's a lesson that's taken me 10 years to learn. Take the time up front to set up the systems, because if and when things hit supercharge speed for you, and you don't have the systems,
Yeah.
you know, you'll just get washed out. You know, and that's you know, I'm not washed out, but I'm definitely, you know, treading water.
Yeah. I mean, those two pieces of advice are literally everything, honestly.
Exactly.
Especially that, and then that with that first one, the ability, if you have the luxury to be able to start something to gain the experience and not worry about how much you're getting paid, is so. I feel like it's almost like a lost art. We keep talking about lost arts. It's like something that I feel like used to be done so much more, and now everyone's just like, oh, how can I make $1 million on the internet immediately, as opposed to like learning from people who are really good and kind of living that solo life where you're just learning and learning and learning and making nothing, you know, but then you come out with just this skill set, and plus your network starts out so good because you're around people who are amazing at
and people see that people, you know, you do things the right way, people see it, and it's funny, you never know who's watching. You know, and like I remember, like I became a plaintiff lawyer, and people were calling me left and right. I'm like, how do I'm like, your name seems familiar. Like, oh, you know, I remember you as a defense lawyer from 5 years ago. Like, here's some cases. You just never know. And you're right. There's something to it. But I think it was easier, man. I lived when I came out to San Diego and first started working as a lawyer. You could still rent an apartment for less than $1,000 a month and have it not be somebody's garage. Now it's like, I don't know how you do it. I mean, you don't, you know, I guess don't, unless you have the money, don't come to San Diego and try to do that. Like, it's insane. It's I would not have been able to do it now. On my starting salary at my first firm was $60,000 a year. If I was making that kind of money right now, I don't know, where would I live? I'd have to have 6 roommates. You know, it's crazy.
San Diego's the #1 most expensive city in the country right now.
Is it really?
It's nuts. And I mean, you know, there's you know, I say I would never leave. I don't know, man. You know, there's definitely, you know, there's definitely an attraction to going to some place like rural and just having like a ranch.
Yeah, exactly.
For like $2,000 a month. And like, you know, this is a studio apartment in San Diego, and I have a ranch. You know, so I can. I'm not there yet, but I could see, you know, maybe 60-year-old Andrew.
I feel like that's sort of like every like guy wants to retire on a ranch, away from everyone. When you're young, you want to be into action. You know, I actually like sort of enjoy the homeless fighting on the street. Like, I don't enjoy them fighting. I just mean like the chaos of the city. And but the older I get, you know, the more I'm like, man, I sort of want to be on a ranch away from everyone.
Well, then that show Yellowstone came out, and now everybody just wants.
Oh, Montana is blowing up because of that show.
I love that.
Is
show.
it or Wyoming or Montana? Montana. Yeah, Montana.
Oh yeah, it's what, Bozeman, which was already kind of a Fuji place, really. Now it's like everybody's looking for Kevin Costner.
That show really blew it up. Man, thank you for coming by.
Thanks for having me. I'm glad it wasn't something else. I had no idea what this podcast was going to be about. Sorry about that.